here on our magic island, I call it the magic island of Lanzarote in the Canary Islands, a new venue for conversation with John Butler. We're having a little bit of time out in the sunshine. We watched the sun come up together this morning on the balcony. And John, I'm going to ask a simple couple of questions this morning. In meditation, one of the helpful things that I find to sort of orientate myself, shall we say, at the beginning, is a saying that's attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, I believe. I've not actually read his original words in Latin or whatever language it was. The place you are looking for is the place you are looking from.
There are so many approaches, aren't there, to this subject, and so many phrases and words and practices that people find useful as sort of stepping stones. The place you're looking for is where you're looking from. I can't say that's something that's ever come to my mind as I just hear these words. I've heard Phil say them before. I think about them and say, well, yes, okay, that makes sense. I don't really know what else I can say about it. I'm really rather reluctant to emphasize one way or another. There are just so many ways, and we're all different. To some people, I'm sure that phrase is absolute gospel truth. To others, it sort of doesn't mean anything very much. I find it rather hard to say quite what drove, or rather led me on. I was thinking the other day, I suppose I feel rather like toothpaste squeezed out of a tube, whereas this world is the tube, and I always rather felt that I wasn't wanted and didn't really have a place in this world, I suppose, and now in old age I feel very much as though the squeezing has almost reached the point where I'm almost squeezed right out of this world. What was I looking for? Well, at various times I've said love or freedom, but when as a young man of 26 I first approached a school of meditation and they asked me what I wanted in life, I answered God. Not that I knew what God was then, or even can say now exactly. So I've always been a bit shy of the word God. The place I was looking for, I don't know really. Sorry, Phil, I can't give you really much of an answer to that one.
It just helps me to shift my attention, if you like, from the idea that God is separate out there to if God is omnipresent, that must include me. so what is the God's eye view?
I don't know. I don't really know if we even should try to reduce these sort of questions to words. Take it or leave it, I suppose. What you find. It is a bit of a mystery, isn't it, what leads us on. Often I think there's a sort of inner compass within us, somewhere within us, that's almost instinctively, intuitively drives one on. I remember years and years ago, I think I wrote a poem. I think first line went something like that: deeper and ever deeper, oh my love, my Lord, in you forever my whole heart outpoured. I suppose, like most poems, that was prompted by a woman, but somehow where woman ends and the infinite love begins, it's sometimes difficult to say, isn't it? I think I always found love of a woman somehow merged into infinite love of the divine. Of course, the woman didn't always see it like that, but especially, I suppose, unhappy love was more conducive to this sort of thinking. Yes, I think that's what really lit me up, rather than more sedate statements about the place I'm looking for, the place I'm yearning for, perhaps. But even that's hard to define. Perhaps that's why I love just out open spaces, stars, and up on the top of mountains where somehow I didn't have to use words, one just sort of instinctively expanded in such places, felt better for it. Yes, I was never much of a one for books, even the Bible. It confirmed rather than gave me, rather than led me on. I think, yes, my reading was not a primary source, I don't think, of pointing me in the direction. I think it was always this indefinable something in the heart. But by no means should we dismiss what other people find useful.
I've heard it said there are two books we should live by, perhaps. The Bible and the Book of Nature.
Yes, I've heard that. I came across that in Scotland, a place called Iona, which is one of the most ancient sites of Christian endeavour, one of the Scottish Hebridean Islands, and actually what I read, God wrote two books, a great big book or a little book called the Bible, and the great big book of nature. Yes, I like that very much. Yes, I'd put it in it that way. So for me, nature has always been the number one book. It seems to me that's the original book of God, and then with the sort of scenes, no doubt inspired men of spirit to write the Bible. Just sitting by the sea here, just there's a little balcony rail, and if you sit down, you don't even see the small road passing in front of the house. You look straight out onto the waves. And this morning, the dawn preceded by a wonderful rose colour across the whole horizon. It's sort of, there are no words mixed up in it. You just speechless. You just look and behold wonder, and what are we? Again, one hardly knows how to put it into words. You just gaze at the wonderful.
Is it Meister Eckhart who says the closest thing to God is silence?
Well, yes, indeed. Silence. More expressive than words often, isn't it? Or tears. It's funny, isn't it? We put such an emphasis on words, and yet the deepest, most meaningful communications are often just silence, aren't they? Or a look. You don't have to say anything.
Well, you've got in which case you've got to. I'll shut up, and you've got to guess what my next question is.
All right. Yes, I'm sorry. Right, let's try another one, Phil. I can't think of anything more to say about this first one.
The next one's even worse.
Right.
You're going to love this. The next little phrase, which I find very helpful in beginning meditation, is what you are looking for is what is looking.
I'm afraid that's too much the same as the first question. I don't think I could.
So I'm
afraid my mind just doesn't sort of yoke onto these sort of questions.
Well, you can imagine the foment in my mind that needs quelling before I get anywhere near to stillness. Tell me about your practice then, from literally a sitting start, feet on floor, bottom on chair, to stillness. What?
Well, over the course of how many years now? Getting on for 55 years of meditation, I suppose. It's because the practice has varied enormously. It seems ages ago that I sort of relied on a mantra. That very often now, I don't really quite know how I meditate, but I sit down and sometimes I might say Jesus or something, but often I think I'm just taken, really. I'm not quite sure what happens. Yes, I sit down and but somehow it's a matter of, yes, I think the best phrase I can use now is I'm taken. Perhaps I've long been accustomed to letting go, or sometimes I can't, sometimes I've got thoughts in my mind, but again, it's hard to say quite how much you're thinking, because there are long periods pass when, well, I hope it doesn't sound too stupid to you, but I really can't tell you what happens, because you're taken beyond words. But certainly these are the most meaningful parts of my day. If I don't meditate, I feel as though I've missed something, the deepest meaning of the day. What am I looking for? I find it hard to put into words, I really do. Even if I said God, it would bring it into a sort of human interpretation, which I'd rather do without. Perhaps going home is one of the nearest words I could use. I tell you what, just being here now, I know this is how I orientate myself. Again, I've repeated it often, and it may seem quite sort of childishly simple, but just feet on the ground, bottom on the chair, in the present moment. And immediately this spiritual presence is here, containing all that I'm fumbling around in my mind, trying to find something to say. The movement, the sound of the sea coming through the window. Phil's just fidgeting around with the curtain, trying to do something to the light. But it all takes place within this spiritual stillness, which is one and undivided. This is so obviously so much greater and more meaningful than everything that is contained within it. It itself is no thing. It is nameless and formless. So I can't really say I'm aiming for it. Perhaps I know there's some spiritual book sort of, I am that, isn't it? I am this. That's the best one can come up with, isn't it? It's this thisness, this isness, what is present now, in which all the coming to pass is just the movement, the play of creation, like the ups and downs of the waves on the sea. And this is the completeness in which all the lost loves and all the inadequacies, all the failures of life are really just leading us on to this ultimate where we belong, what we really are. This is where all our yearnings come to rest, because there's nothing lacking any longer. All the problems of the world they just sort of die out. You know, the words of Jesus just come to mind. The crooked shall be made straight and the rough places smooth. Yes, that's exactly how it is. You think of the disorders of this world, you know, the wars and the crises of this and that, the very dying out of it, which causes such distress. It's made smooth. All these things are it's just like the storms of the sea coming to calm. Again, there's the words, I'm not sure if they're Jesus' words or no, they're from the Old Testament, I think. The still, small voice of calm. Yes, that's it. And the storms of life, they just settle down. They're not really solved in the human way. It's just that the steam's taken out of them. All the aggro and the agony just comes to rest. It dies out. And then everything is just solved naturally. It's solved by being dissolved in this greater peace that brings all things to rest. all our agonies are brought to rest, to peace. They're completed. They themselves only arise because we are not at rest. You see, we are restless, and the other person's also restless, and so two restlesses create more restlessness, don't they? But when one comes to rest, gradually there's no more, so you're not adding fuel to the fire any longer, and the fire just dies out. Yes, that's how it is. It's another way you can put it. Dissolved, it just dies out. And this way all the problems of the world are solved without any effort. Effortless. It's useful to bear in mind one of the principles of spiritual work, that if it takes effort, it's wrong. Real spiritual work is effortless. It's a matter of letting go our striving, letting go our effort to look for or become something. All this has to be let go, because actually that's just the ego, isn't it? The ego creating an object and then trying to achieve it or find it. When we meditate, you should try to avoid looking for results, looking to find anything, however carefully it's formulated. Well, that's how I was taught, and this is how I practice, how I advise other people.
There's a puzzling verse in Paul's letter to Hebrews, which has always fascinated me and others, which says, "Strive therefore to enter that rest."
Yes, well, it seems well. Who am I to? You see, it's thanks, Phil. Yes, that is like a warning, isn't it? So to be very careful about what one says, because we're all starting from rather different points and have different sort of different backgrounds. You know, we've got the different compositions, haven't we, of our minds and emotions, and I suppose I have striven at certain times. Yes, I suppose when I was younger and beginning the practice, yes, I avidly read spiritual works and tried to discipline myself in various ways, apply myself diligently to listening to a mantra. Yes, I've done all those things. It's only, I think, in later years that I've become so relaxed about it. Strive, therefore. Strive until you no longer strive, until you come to rest, and all the striving cease. I think that's another hymn, isn't it? Well-known words. Till all the striving cease, we come to peace.
Just as an aside, I'm still recording, it's fine. And it's just that the light, for some reason, I'll keep it going. Where's it coming from? Oh, you see, it's past the awning. Whilst we've been recording, the light's gone up,
yes,
over the wall.
Yes.
And it's shining on your beard, and your beard's just a glow. It's a white glow. You look like some extraterrestrial creature at the moment, which is why I tried to change the light.
Well, there you are. Viewers, don't be deceived. Don't believe that this old fool knows what he's talking about. Oh, no, it's the sun, the real sun.
You once, well, several times, more than once, have described the practice of meditation to me as rest, coming home to rest,
Yes.
which I find possibly more helpful than the place you're looking for is the place you're looking from.
Yes.
Place of rest.
But funnily enough, when I first heard that, when I was a restless young man, it didn't appeal to me at all. I think I was almost quite offended about the idea of coming to peace. I wanted, what did I want? I'm not sure what I wanted. But I wanted some more sort of striking, sort of spiritual something. The idea of coming to rest somehow seemed too uninteresting to a young man as I was then. And so I suppose I'm sorry, I'm not really seem to be expressing myself very well today.
I think it's the questioner that's giving you the problem.
Let me just say that just follow whatever your present yearning is, and that'll lead you on. Yes, that's better, rather than picking up what other people say, and just hear all these presentations that are put forward, all these different people that offer spiritual advice. You know, take it all and pick out what appeals to you, and don't worry too much about the rest, and you'll find that you'll follow what appeals to you until you grow out of it, and until it leads you on to something else, and that'll lead you on to something else. Yes, that's the way, really. It's no good somebody in their 20s listening to an old man of 80 telling you, his experience. It's just not real, is it? You want to accept yourself as you are, and be sure that just as we grow out of childhood, so we grow in spiritual understanding and in the meaning of prayer and meditation and what it's all about.
Well, before we finish, or before this brilliant sunshine completely bleaches your beard and you disappear in a blaze of light, I'm going to finish with yet more words that come to mind, John. You know me. T.S. Eliot, my favourite lines from him: there's no end to exploration.
Yeah.
But the end of all our exploring will be to arrive at the beginning and know the place for the first time. And
yes.
This sort of sense of completion,
yes.
or a word we've used earlier on this trip, resolve.
Yes.
Coming back to the place, coming back to the place where you always were.
Yes.
That place of rest, but somehow knowing it for the first time.
Yes, well, I remember these words. I remember them soon after I started this work. Yes, they express it beautifully. You don't really know it for the first time. I wouldn't use that word knowing any longer, because as we understand knowing in human terms, the knowledge of man, the wisdom of man, is foolishness to God. If I was to say I know something, I'd feel I was verging on the untruth now. Human knowing believe it or not, you grow out of knowing into unknowing. It's the unknowing that actually becomes the real knowing. Now, a lot of you will think I'm quite bonkers to say that. But human knowledge is you can hardly imagine not having some knowledge. But spiritual knowledge is in another dimension altogether. It's beyond words, it's beyond any of that formulation that we call knowledge. It's immediately present here now. A word like stillness is probably one of the best we could use, because do we really know what stillness is, or know what silence is, or know what spirit is, or know what I really am? It's unknowing. It's, well, being still, being complete, being here. Somehow knowledge seems as distant as the movement of the sea now. It's almost in another world, isn't it? It's almost going further away. Something that once upon a time was important, and now doesn't seem important at all. Almost childishness. Knowledge. Like a child learns the ABC. Putting little bricks together, building little houses, and it all comes to pass. Comes to rest. This quest for knowledge. Once you know something, you put a limit round it. It's in the unknowing that we find real freedom. That's why no one really knows what God is. It's only when you forget all about knowing. Perhaps one just forgets to be separate.